Hi and welcome to my beautiful office. Now in a different location. I haven't shown you this part of the reserve before. It's way on top of the hill, away from where I have my new thinking log. So it's a very dry area because it's on top of the hill. It's where all the messmate and the stringy barks live because of the dryness of the ground. They prefer it. So you don't get the grey gums up here. They prefer a lot more water. So they live down the hill there. Now around these messmate trees you'll get a lot of the native grasses because it's such a harsh, dry environment up here. So it's mainly native grasses and bracken. And the reason why I'm up here for today is I'm photographing these native grasses that throw a spike out with a flower on it. So they're stamens, they're not actually pebbles or anything, they're just the stamens. They're identical to the grass tree. So the head, the bit that comes out of the ground, the grass itself, is tubular just like you get on the grass tree. And it has the same spike come out, the same flower head. So they're identical in that way. I'm looking at the ones that are odd shaped. So I don't want a boring straight up one. I want them to be slightly bent, and there's plenty around at the minute that are bent. So it's an interesting shape to them. And I want butterflies and bees to come around flying on them to get the pollen. So I can get a good, nice photograph. So I've been doing that the last couple of weeks. I've got some nice shots. I want something better though. I'm after that really amazing shot. An interesting pose for my subject, and the flower, being on the right part of the flower. It's on a nice curve, so we get this interesting photograph. Now I'm a little wobbly because I'm standing up on a fallen log. So I'm fairly stable here until I go to do this, of course, then my balance starts to go a little funny. And the reason why I'm standing on this is to get the sky out of the way. It is not a beautiful, bright, sunny day. It's overcast and it's broken overcast clouds. So every now and then the sun's bursting out and then goes out behind the clouds. So having them in the background, I'm getting a lot of blown out bokeh. So there's this little round circles here and there where it's bursting through the canopy, and it's distracting, takes your eye away from the subject that I want you to look at. So I just want a nicely blurred out background using the zoom lens, of course, to get in close, but also to help blur out that background. So I can use any aperture I like. It's not going to affect my background, it's not going to bring it into focus. My background is quite far away. So all I'm getting is these nice blurred sort of colours. Getting the sky out of the shot. I'm not getting those circles of bokeh. I have had in some spots where it's been alright though, but here I need to be a little bit either on par with my subject or just a slightly above it, which I am, just slightly above it. So it's given me what I was after, a nicer background, not distracting, concentrate on my subject. So I have this camera set up for a little bit of flexibility. The sun keeps popping through every now and then like it's trying to do right now. So I've got an ISO of 1000, and I'm just bringing my aperture up every now and then as the lighting conditions change. I'm leaving my shutter speed 1/640. So it gives me a nice bit of balance. I've got the bees coming in. You can still slightly see their wings. I'm not completely freezing them. You can see a little bit of movement there. Give it a little bit more action, a bit more drama to the image. What I've been hoping for, and I have been getting every now and then, is a bee coming from the opposite side. It hasn't worked out as far as a really good photograph. They look nice, but that's not what we want. I want that amazing shot. So I'm going to keep trying. I might not get it, but I'm hopeful. Keep persevering. I'll get something good in the end. You're listening to the sacred kingfisher. I'll have to get a photograph, a good photograph of them one day. I have got some, not in a really good pose though, and a good position, you know, not a very interesting scene that they're sitting on neither. This guy has been hanging around up here for a while now, but he's staying up high. I can't get a nice shot. Anyway, that's what we're going to discuss. Continuing our talk about these flower spikes. They are a washed out yellow, so they're very reflective, especially when the sunlight hits them. So to cope with that, I'm constantly dialing up and down with my aperture and my shutter speed. As the sun comes in and out of those bloody clouds, they're so broken up, it's bloody frustrating. My subject looks like it's going to get in a really nice pose, and then it does, and the sun's come out. I've got to quickly dial my aperture back up, adding a bit more shutter speed, and it's gone out of the pose. I've also had butterfly, nicely positioned, same thing again, but the sun went in the clouds. I've had to open everything back up, and as I'm doing this, a bloody couple of bees getting beautiful positions. One's landed, the other one's about to land near the butterfly, so it would have been awesome, but by the time I got to do it, it's too late, you know. So that's just the frustrations of photographing. No, in general, it's all about patience, spending as much time as you can in the one spot where things are happening. Keep trying day after day after day. Fingers crossed we get something beautiful. Oh, what's going on here? We had ferocious winds last night, and we had a massive roadblock. Wow, bit hard to get through all this. I have to climb over it. Let's have a look how many trees are down. So we have one big messmate tree that's come down, and it's taken down two other grey gums with it, living ones. There's a whole host of dead trees that's taken down with it. Strips and wattle trees along the way. Wow, that's a massive mess. Massive mess. Get over this obstacle, get on with my day. There's probably going to be a lot more of this because, man, it was actually quite scary. I haven't sort of had that feeling for a long time up in my area. The winds were that powerful. Those devastating winds don't seem to have created much more havoc in the reserve. I'm not really seeing any other trees that have come down. Mum's still here. Beautiful grey gum. That's the oldest living thing in the reserve. She's a reminder of what was once here. It was back in the 1850s is when they moved through the hills looking for gold. So the gold rush was on back then. All this reserve would have been completely stripped back, and Mum probably was a sapling back then. She's still going strong, survives those ferocious winds and the maze. She's just a thing of beauty. She's not like the rest of her daughters. I guess she's responsible for a lot of the regrowth in here. She's not straight and tall like they are. She's got a nice bit of shape to her. She's a beautiful looking tree. Quite hollow, so she gives back a lot to the reserve, not just with reseeding it, but also hollows to allow birds to nest in, sugar gliders to live in, possums, a host of other things. And she'd have a lot of insects on her, so the birds would be feeding around her as well. So it's a beautiful tree, and if she did fall to the ground, that would be a very sad day. Well, I am back for another session, and I have the same conditions as I had yesterday. Broken clouds. So it's making it very awkward. You know, I spoke about yesterday being in manual mode and just changing the aperture up and down as I need to, and I'm quite sure they're thinking, well, why don't you just simply go into a shutter priority mode and let the camera open and shut the aperture? We're in a forest environment. It doesn't work. If I was out in the open more, different environment. We certainly do that. Birds in flight, it's what I do all the time. But in a tough environment like this, it just doesn't work. I'm using a spot meter on my subject, which is quite reflective, very bright. It blows out very easy. But I'm getting butterflies and things land on there. And I'm putting my focus point on that, which means I'm also putting the spot meter on that as well. So the camera is exposing for that dark subject, and so the stamens are all blowing out on that flower. So it's just not working. It's far better to do it by hand. Try and move quickly and try and get it that way. But in the end, I decided that I would introduce the flash, because a lot of times the sun is moving. You have to think about that as well. It's constantly moving around, so it's going behind trees, and my subject goes into the shadows, but the sun's still on the background. So I'm getting this odd, situation where it's just not working. So I've introduced a flash. The camera's in manual mode. I'm bringing my exposure down for the background. So I'm exposing for the background, bringing it down so it's nice and neat. But that means the flower head will be in the dark, so you're not going to see any detail or anything. So that's why I brought the flash in, to give me some light on that, give me a nice exposure over the whole image. I'm hearing some of yous out there. I know you're saying never use a flash. Don't know why you continue to use a flash. This is why I use a flash for. We are in a forest environment. You have to deal with these sort of things. Those people obviously don't work in the environment that I work in. I've been doing this for years. If I didn't use a flash, I would miss out on 70% of the things that I see in here. I would not get a good image. It'd be shit. Background's blowing out, I expose for that. My subject's in the shade. Harsh shade. The detail on that is gone. You can say go into Photoshop and try and recover. That's alright maybe if you've got a 40 megapixel camera, but with a 20 megapixel sensor on the 7D Mark II, and it being a C sensor, there's not a massive amount to work with, and it just doesn't work in Photoshop. And the thing is, I like to do it in camera. I don't want to be mucking around, going into Photoshop and fixing things up. That's not how I work. I introduce a flash to help me out, give me good exposure. All I'm doing is slight tweaks in Canon's digital professional photo editor I just maybe brighten it up a little bit if I need to, add a little bit more sharpening if I need to. That's pretty well much it. I don't need to go into Photoshop. It's only if there's something annoying that needs to be deleted that I'll go into Photoshop. Simply say, no, that's not how I want to work. It's fine. I'm not going to be racist about it. If you don't want to use a flash, that's fine. But bear in mind, you will miss out on a hell of a lot in a forest environment. I'm just waiting for something to happen here. Yeah, there's not a lot going on because these flowers have been out for quite some time. So they're losing the strength of the pollen perfume, dropping off. Oh, I've been here for an hour and it's really, really quiet. There's just nothing happening at the minute. But we'll hang around. What a beautiful morning I've had. Fog's starting to lift, but it was beautiful just before. Just listening to birds. And even now I still can't hear any traffic, which is a bit unusual. It's so peaceful. So we've been talking about dynamic range issues that I have within the forest and how hard it's been to try and get control over the camera with that. Having all these different conditions turning up with the sun going in and out and then going around the back of trees, so my subject goes into the shadows and having a very bright background, and how I've dealt with those, introducing the flash. Now, I sort of briefly mentioned that, you know, some people just don't like the flash and will never use it. A little bit narrow-minded. Some people sometimes, that's it, never use it. Don't like the look of it. And they just put a brick wall up, and maybe have come from when they first started out learning about photography. They've had people say that the flash is, you know, no, you don't use a flash, you avoid it like plague. Yeah, a little narrow-minded in my opinion. I like to explore every aspect of photography. I like to have a go at different genres and build up a much better knowledge of all aspects of photography so that it helps me in what I do, the things that interest me. Now I'm going to put an image up now and I want your opinion on it. Here it is, spotted pudlet. Without the flash, I would not have got that image. So I want your honest opinion on what you think of that. As a pose, I love it. It's my favourite bird photograph. If I'd have taken a shot without the flash, I would have had colour blotching, a lot of noise, so it would have been a horrible image to try and work with in Photoshop. It just wouldn't have worked. Just don't put a brick wall up. If you've never used a flash before and you have that thing in your head about never going to use it because my environment doesn't call for it, well, fine, but when you get the opportunity and you have a flash, give it a go. Anyway, we'll shut up about that. I just don't think there's any need for not exploring other parts of photography. Now, everything I've talked about with dynamic range problems and how I've dealt with it with those flower sticks will all change within the next 3 years. We're going to see dynamic range being put into camera more and more and become better and better. Yeah, it's starting to happen with mirrorless. They're really starting to grow and become a much better product, and that's why I'm jumping in and buying the R6. The focusing system, Canon have finally got it right, and everyone else will follow them, I'm sure. Massive improvements, and it's what I've been needing to photograph the agile antechinus, my passion. Hope you got something out of this video, and if you liked it, please give me a like. It'll make a huge difference to growing my channel. And if you like to subscribe to my channel and get more of this amazing stuff, click on my pretty little faces down here in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, hit the little bell, you'll get notification whenever I do anything else. And if you'd like to go and have a look at all the mad and crazy things I've been doing in the past, click on my icon right here at the end of this video, take you to my channel. I talk about photographing and filming in a forest environment, give you lots of tips there. When I go on adventures, I take you with me. There'll be something there of interest to you, I am sure. So stay safe, stay away from that coronavirus rubbish. And just remember, if you don't do, you don't get. So get out there and start photographing, filming wildlife if you possibly can. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.